Our internet seems to be a little shoddy today. It's very, very windy here.
Okay.
So just if we cut off, we'll sign back on, but we just got like a notification that our internet is poor. So
Okay.
yeah, just a
I've
heads up.
been worrying about my internet too, so we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I've been doing a lot of things online recently for like other things that we're a part of, and everyone, no matter where they are, seems to be like very frustrated with their internet connection. So
Yeah.
I think it's just like
It's comforting when people in Toronto or Ottawa have poor internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just the rural people.
It's not just the rural people. I mean, I guess maybe it shouldn't be comforting, but that makes me feel like something isn't working right. But I also don't know anything about internet and how it functions, so it's one of the many things I just accept into my home and life, weirdly without questioning or learning anything about.
Yeah.
Just, try not to think about it.
Welcome to Flat Files.
Yeah,
it's very nice to see you.
Thanks for having me. It's really nice to see you guys too.
So yeah, this is episode 39 of our Flat Files series, and for anybody that doesn't know what Flat Files is, it is a series that Kyle and I started, I guess, last April?
Something about that.
Yeah, I think around April.
At least 39 weeks ago.
Yeah, and as a way to stay connected with like the community that we've built here at Sparkbox, and also to just continue the like sharing and talking and appreciating art, especially art that maybe goes a little unrecognized or is exhibited more on people's clothes or in their bookshelves and less like on gallery walls, or at least that's what it sort of transitioned into as time goes on. And so we have been like kind of scouring through the flat files at our house and pulling out pieces of work that we've collected over the years or have traded with other people. And we invite our guests to do the same. And this year we're trying to tie in a little bit of like a studio tour type element as well, partially because we are really rapidly running out of things to share, but also because we've done it a couple times and it's like, I think it's really enjoyable to like see people's workspaces and how they work and how they're sort of modifying their work life right now when not everybody can get into the school that they usually work in or the studio they're used to working in or traveling to residencies to work. So that's a little rundown of what the show is about. And so we're just so happy to see you.
I'm so happy to see you guys.
The package that you sent was so beautiful and just kind of lifted us up. It was really, really nice to receive that. So thank you for it.
Oh, thank you. It was really fun. Like I watched your episode where you opened that and like I don't normally get to watch people open that. So exciting. Yeah. I don't think
we like fully waited.
Yeah. That was fun.
Oh, good. It was fun to open. It was like surprisingly like it just felt like it kept being more and more things, which was like it was like Christmas time. I loved it.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea, I think.
So if you can start by just sharing like who you are and like what your practice is, that would be super.
Yeah. So I'm Laura Watson. I mostly like make zines, but also like print and some textile stuff and all kind of like combining drawing and writing, usually poetry of some kind. Yeah. Yes.
And you did like a long project that I now know is coming to an end, which makes sense. It's been a while, but was a big part of your practice for a long time.
Yeah.
Laura is amazing. I 100% agree.
Sarah Crankin says Laura is amazing.
Yeah, I went to school with her. So the like mail exchange project was just like kind of me like putting out like a periodical, but like as a collection of small books instead of like one publication. And I would like make a few a year, and for people to subscribe to it, they would just send me something in the mail, and it was totally up to them what they sent. So it's kind of like a trade sort of thing going on. when I first started it, I thought it was going to be monthly, and I had like a student grant for it. And even like that first summer, like it would, I would pretend it was monthly, but it was really like every 6 to 8 weeks, and then it became bi-monthly. And then the last couple of years, it was more like biannual, but like even that was hard to maintain. Yeah, just as other projects have kind of taken more of my time, it became like a lot of work to do, but also was like very fun and very like I felt like kind of this nice little utopian bubble of like there's no money, the government pays me when I apply to grants, and I just give you this stuff and you give me what you're making, and it's reciprocal. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I feel like that like dream of how you can use your time and then the reality of how time actually works is
yeah,
one that I'm
Yeah.
always
In?
in. Yeah. We were
I like
talking.
keep trying to
Oh, sorry.
adjust like my idea of what is practical, and like after years and years of scaling back, I'm still not there. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it is such a hard one. We were talking to a friend the other day about like, okay, these are kind of like what we expect to be doing once we're through like the projects we're doing right now. And she very like politely was like, this is sort of what you guys always do though, is like, okay, we have to get through these projects and then we can work on these other projects that aren't like the
Yeah.
grant funded projects or collaborative projects. She's like, I think you might need to figure out how to like actually work on both and maybe do less than you're doing so that you can manage both, or you're never going to get to those other projects. And you're like, yep, you're
Yeah.
100% right.
Yeah.
But we don't know how not to do that. Like I don't know how to like phone it in or like just do the bare minimum.
Or like modify an idea that I'm excited about to be more appropriate
What,
for
compromise
time.
on ideas?
Yeah, I'm not
Never.
good at that.
Yeah, it's such a challenge.
It is such a challenge. I completely agree. But I feel like even if I only got your mail art biannually, I would treasure it. It would be such a
Oh, that's nice.
lovely thing. Did people generally send you art or mostly just letters? I know we talked about this while you were here, but I can't remember.
Um, I would say it was more like art and like a lot of found things, um, a lot of like photographs and stuff. But some people would also write letters. Or a few people would only write letters, and like those also tended to be more the people who would like continually write back. And so like there were a couple people at the end who had like done every single installment since I started it, and who I kind of felt like I knew them even though I didn't, know them.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I am still like informally, if people send me stuff, I will send stuff back. It's just not going to be like the same sort of like here's the set parcel, this issue of the mail exchange. Yeah.
Right.
So it is still kind of open. Yeah.
Sort of.
Sort of. Yeah.
So what have you been working on? Can we get a little, are you back on the East Coast now? I can't remember.
I am. Yeah, I'm in Sackville, New Brunswick, which is a pretty little town, about 2,000 people. There's a university here. Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's
nice.
where I went to school, so I moved back to Ontario for a couple years while my partner was doing his master's, and then we decided to come back out here. Yeah.
Nice. And then now it's, the pandemic. So what are
Yeah,
things like on the East Coast?
we've been pretty lucky. The last month has been a little harder in New Brunswick, but like compared to the rest of the country, we've been really lucky, I would say. And we felt so lucky to have like just come out here a couple months before COVID, not realizing, and like we bought a house like a couple weeks after I was at the residency with
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys. And then like, 6 months later, we're like so happy that we had space and we're not in a small apartment in Kitchener. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. Not to be like,
In a small apartment.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Ontario is reporting some of like the new UK variant. Like the
Yeah.
town that I grew up in, Barrie, is kind of a weird little hot spot at the moment. And that makes me a bit nervous, but like Prince Edward County is like, I don't think there's very many cases in our area. There's maybe about a dozen cases over in Kingston. you know, some are associated with the university and some aren't, but like it's pretty like we're okay. It's pretty quiet, but like there is that like threat that it could just balloon up, right?
Yeah, it's scary that what's been happening in Barrie is so awful. Like 50% of that senior's home has died. Like it's
Yeah.
unbelievable how
It
awful.
is. Yeah. The numbers are just like getting to a point where my brain can no longer comprehend it. Like yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, let's talk about studio spaces. That was
Yeah.
a smooth transition, right?
Flawless.
Flawless.
Yeah. Um, so you wanted to do like a little studio tour,
Yeah,
right?
can you do us a
Yeah.
pan around your space?
I can definitely do that. Hold on one sec. Okay. Yeah, so it's just like a little bedroom in my house. Um, some stuff on the walls.
I love it. Can we get closer to stuff on the walls?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So this is like some pages from zines I've been working on in the past year. Some embroideries. I like never used
Oh,
to put
embroidery.
pages up while I was drawing them until I was at the residency at your place, and I found that to be so helpful. So that is
Oh,
something I
nice.
started doing now.
I
Um,
loved that about your space. It was like seeing like the whole story kind of coming together on the walls
Mhm.
around you.
yeah, I found that actually really like productive to be able to see the project that way, which I never really thought to do before. This is my paper cutter, which is like probably my one of my favorite things I own. I got it for about 40 bucks at a thrift store. Uh,
Nice.
yes, that's my number one. Um, some drawers of art. I'm very big on the labeling because I'm a very forgetful, absent-minded person. Um, some screen printing stuff tucked away back here. I've got
Nice.
some like hinges on this table, so I do sometimes like screen print right there. I have a membership at a place at a print studio in Moncton, which is about half an hour away. But um, yeah, it can be a bit of a drive, so it can kind of save some driving by printing some layers at home.
Nice.
Um, yeah, little window, little desk. I've got two like sort of crappy home printers, one for scanning, one for printing.
Are they
Um,
stacked on top of each other?
yes, they are.
Nice.
Like I would say like a big part of what I've committed my time in my art career to has been like how do I make the nicest thing off of like a crappy home printer.
Us too.
Um, well, I just like one better for scanning like pencil crayon and stuff, but then I designed all my zines to be printed on the other one to like line up properly. So now I just have both. Yeah. Uh, desk with
Oh,
some
it's so
things.
nice. I love all the like piece like are all those your works that are on the wall or some of them pictures and like little like
Um,
ephemera?
there's like a few drawings of mine, but then some other like things from magazines and postcards, etc. Yeah, that's all stuff for sort of like one project. This is another project I'm like helping with the branding and like catalog design for this festival in Kitchener this summer.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So that's some of the stuff I've been working on for them. Yeah, stacks of paper.
Yep.
That's what I got, pretty much. It's
Stacks
not
of
huge.
paper. It's classic. It's so tidy and organized though.
It feels very
Oh, thank
lived
you.
in already, which is like, because like you haven't been out there for that long, but like it feels like a space that you have like kind of like cozied into and made your own, which is really, really quite beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. I've tried. I feel like you have to feel at home in your studio to feel productive. So, yeah,
It does help.
make
Mine just looks like a chaos nightmare right now, but yes. Um, with the when we were looking, so I'm worried our internet's crashing. Hopefully you can still hear us.
okay, I
Um,
can.
there was one that we were like, is this scanned pencil that's been printed or we like couldn't figure out how it was made.
Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about. It's just printed like in grayscale off my home printer.
Thanks for joining us, Sarah. um, yeah, I think you've nailed the printer situation because that printed
Thank you.
really nicely. Yeah,
Thanks
we
so
were
much.
talking about like how zines when we were talking with I think it was with Phoebe that we were sharing that with.
Yes.
Um, and just I remember we had someone stay with us many, many years ago, and they were an illustrator. And when they were here for a week, and kind of maybe 2 days in, because it takes a little bit, right? We pick you up, we get groceries, we give you a tour, and that first day is sort of a wash. And then the next day is kind of like you're saying, like you sort of settle into the space, you figure out how you're going to make it work, and that also takes a little bit of time. So
Yeah.
probably by like day three, they were like, okay, I really want to make a whole book. And we were like, a whole book in like 4 days. And they wanted to screen print. They hadn't screen printed before.
Oh my
And we were
God.
like, okay, that's a lot. But at this time it was like early on and we were like, every project can happen. We can help people with everything. Like, we'll stay up late and get things done. And so I remember like they had set up all of the pages so that they could kind of screen print like one screen and have everything and then cut it down, which I was like, genius. But then I was like, oh, are they collated so that so they fold together properly? And they were like, what are you talking about?
Oh
And I was
no.
like, well, like when you put a book together, if it's like 2 pages and you're folding them in half and they're stacked inside other pages, they have to be like ordered so that when you fold it,
Yeah.
like 1 and 2 are together, but it's not 1 and 2 beside each other on the screen. And because I'm not a bookmaker, I was like describing it so poorly, and they were like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And so I don't know how much time we wasted. I like made a book and like numbered everything and then took the whole book apart, and it still wasn't like settling in. And I was like, oh man, book arts, you're such a pain in the ass. We did
Yeah.
eventually make a book and it was great.
Yeah.
Um,
Impressive they got through that in that time.
but it is like one of those things that I'm like, oh, I never even thought about that whole part of like making sure the ordering works for the way you want to make the book.
Yeah. Like there's a surprising amount of like mathematics involved, especially when you're like, okay, I can get this amount of paper at this cost, so I want it to fit on, be able to print this many pages, and they're like, oh, I have to draw an extra page just so this all fits into a book format, or like, yeah, it's a lot of just like practical organizing.
Yeah, that like your book also has to be like the pages have to be divisible by four
Yeah,
or not by four or at least an even number. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah,
also grain of paper. That was something I literally never thought of until we like worked with a bookmaker on a project. And I was like, oh, so that the pages don't curl weird. Never ever
yeah.
considered this.
I have to admit that's something I usually kind of like. I don't usually work with super high quality papers, so I usually kind of ignore that. But there's times when I've really regretted ignoring it. Yeah, things don't fold properly.
Yeah, see, I was like something I never thought of, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden was forced into
Yeah.
recognizing.
For those people who aren't like part of a book arts world, like when we talk about grain of paper, like the way that it's made, like the paper like literally has a grain going in one direction, meaning that like the page will bend easier in one way than it would in another way. And if you don't like align all of those, your book does like weird things where like it cups and is like permanently cupped and doesn't lay flat, or like the pages never sit quite correctly with one another.
Yeah, see, I didn't know those things.
No,
Um,
they're important things in the book arts world, apparently.
Um, yeah, but not in the rest of the world, really. So
No.
no.
not something you would know.
Shall we share some arts?
Yes, let's do that. I could
Would you
start.
like to go first, or would you like us to? All
I'll
right.
start with a little zine. This is one of my favorite zines that I own. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about the artist other than like their name on the back, which is Jesse Francis, and that they were at a zine fair in Sackville at one time. Um, It is called Boy's Guide to Subverting Traditional Masculinity. And it is just
It's
like
so small.
the tiniest, sweetest little zine, um, with pages like expand your vocabulary and then like examples like cute, sweet, and like places for you to write your own. And I just like love it because like it's not remotely square at all.
Speaking of
And
brain and ignoring rules.
yeah, I just think it's like a great example of you can make something so lovely without like making it like caring at all about like technical rules, you know? Like it's just like the far extreme of like embracing scrappiness. But it's also like so sweet and such a like important conversation had in such a like adorable way. Yeah.
Oh, I love
So
it.
that is by Jesse.
Is
Yeah,
it
it's one
so
of my
like
faves.
what I really love about zine art is that there is a lot of creative ways to make books. Like so when you open it
Yeah.
up, is it like the 8 squares with the slit down the middle?
I think it is, but I think it's like a half page.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, this is
And
such a
then,
great way
yes,
to make a
so
zine.
fold it into 8, slit down the middle, and makes a
And it
tiny little
folds
book.
together to become a little tiny book.
Yeah,
Yes. Classic. I love that.
it is. It is a great way to make books. That's how I made most of my first zines, but I would like obsess over like trying to get it to like fold like evenly. And at a certain point, I was like, why am I using this format anymore? Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. That's a great first share. Well, we'll stick with scale then,
Okay.
and also share something very small.
Oh,
Can this be seen?
yeah,
Am I
that's
too
Let's see.
shaky?
beautiful.
So this is a Shrinky Dink
Oh,
drawing of our house by Australian artist Louisa Giffard. And Louisa stayed with us. I don't actually even remember what year Louisa was here.
I want to say like circa 2016, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was quite a long time ago. And Louisa really like found a way to get involved in the community when she was here, which I just loved so much. So a lot of Louisa's work is focused on like natural environments, landscapes, flora, fauna, and they're just all these really gorgeous drawings, usually pencil crayon or like not like markers, but like kind of like pen and ink, but color, not
Yeah.
black and white.
mhm.
And when she was here, we had been gifted a bunch of these Shrinky Dink pages from another artist that had stayed with us, maybe the month before or a couple months before, I can't remember. And I like didn't really know how to like utilize them very well. Like I had played around with them. I thought Shrinky Dinks was really fun. Shrinky Dink is like a material that like kind of just looks like a sheet of paper, like a plasticky kind of paper, and it has a bit of a texture on one side, and then
Feels a little frosted.
yeah, and like smooth on the other. And so you can color onto the textured side in it seems like almost any material. I'm sure there's probably materials that don't work. Colored pencil was like a great success. And then you put it in an oven and everything shrinks down. So this drawing was like a normal size drawing of our house, and then
Probably
it
the size of this board.
shrinks
And it
down.
shrinks down too. But yay big.
And so because Louisa was doing all these pencil crayon drawings that were just like gorgeous, I was like, you should just take this Shrinky Dink stuff and play around with it, because why not? It all of a sudden turns your drawing into something that feels more like an object. And so she did a few things. She did like some like flora and fauna from the area. She had started going to there's like a bird conservation area on one of the points, and you can show up there and go on tours and stuff, but I think you can also like if you're engaged and interested, it at the time, I don't know if this happens all the time, but the people that were volunteering there were eager to have guests show up and like help with birding, tagging, like hanging out, talking with people, sharing information. So Louisa ended up going there a few times and just hanging out with the birders and drawing the birds and taking photographs of them. And yeah, so some of the Shrinky Dinks were made of that experience, but then she made one of our house, and I just treasure it.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah, Shrinky Dinks. Yeah, it's like it feels like a little plastic. I don't know.
It's a weird material because it just contracts everything. And so what happens is like these pencil crayon marks that are like pencil crayon like feels really dull at times, but because everything shrinks, all of the tone and pigment all contracts as well. And so you end up with like a really vibrant mark, which normally isn't present in like pencil crayon drawings. And like it just kind of like pumps up the saturation of all of the colors because it's all like physically shrinking and intensifying all the pigment on the physical surface down to a much smaller surface. And yeah, I like this little guy.
Yeah, the Shrinky Dinks were fun. Like at the time that we had them, the artist that gave them to us, and then another artist that was here who's also on the East Coast, Jacob Rolfe, he's in Halifax, who's an illustrator. My nieces came over, and they, I think, because they're so little, I don't know if you met them when you were here, but my sister lives very close, so they would pop by and visit every once in a while. And they just assumed that every artist that stayed with us was just our friend. Like that we just had this like overflowing. I mean, a lot of people do become our friends, but like I think that they just assumed that we always had friends visiting all the time. And
they're older now. They understand the concept a little bit better.
But so they would just kind of like insert themselves into people's studio spaces and like ask to use all their things. And like, you know, we would be trying to corral them, but it wasn't always easy. I'm sure if anybody has children, they know that sometimes you can do your best and kids still, they have a mind of their own, so they do what they want. So we all sat around the table and just drew Shrinky Dinks with the kids. And it was, I don't know, just like such an enjoyable and like kindness of the residents to just like take a minute of their day and like color art with my nieces and like make all these little Shrinky Dinks together. It was just, I miss stuff like that. It was so much fun.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's our first share.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, I thought I would maybe like cheat a little bit and show a collection, if that's
That
okay.
sounds great.
So I was going to show my collection of tiny bird sculptures.
Amazing.
So this is one by an artist named Basil Doucette, who's like, as far as I was told in the store when I bought it, like a 80-something-year-old Acadian man in Nova Scotia. And it's just like this beautiful little carved wood painted bird.
Love it.
It's adorable.
So nice.
Are its legs like little metal legs, or are they also carved wood?
They are metal, yeah,
Okay.
but painted, yeah.
Super.
Very cute. Second one is this, like, it's a felt swan, and I don't know if you can see, it's got this like black on black embroidery of eyes on the wings.
Oh, I can't see it, but maybe when you send photos, it will.
I will send photos. Yeah, it's really lovely. This is by an artist named Claire Paquet, who I went to school with. Yeah.
Do the wings sort of separate out, or are they also felted on?
So they're like just like pieces of felt that are like sewn on either end.
Oh.
And then the babies, like, I'm guessing like needle felted. I don't really know enough about textile stuff.
It looks needle felted just based on like the density of it.
Yeah, it's like that kind of texture anyways. So that's the second one.
Love it.
And then these next ones are all made by a good friend of mine named Krista Gunn, who like knits animals and other things. So this is like a mourning dove that she made for one of my birthdays.
So nice.
Yeah.
How dense is it? It feels like it's like a rock.
They're like stuffies.
Okay.
My cat like loves to grab them because it's like eating a little rodent. This is a robin. It's like little white under bit, like just all the detail. And if I remember correctly, I think when she was doing these, she was like knitting with toothpicks. Like the knit is so tiny. Yeah.
Knitting with toothpicks? I don't know how to knit.
So they're not felted, but they're actually knitted together?
They're knit. Yeah,
What?
yeah. There's just so much work that goes into this
That's
tiny
an
thing.
insane amount of work to knit a little bird.
Yeah, yeah, they're knit.
Oh, I see the pattern now. That's
Yeah,
so damn adorable.
I know. And I have quite a few of these, but here's a third one. This is
Oh
like
my
tiny
God.
logo. And they have their noses are made out of like pieces of pine cone, and they have little like their feet are little twigs.
Those are so lovely.
I know. They're so good. Anyways, so that's a selection from my collection of small bird statues.
Um, did you just kind of fall into this love for sort of
I
textile-based birds, or?
I don't know. I guess it was just like had a couple of them and then it kept going. I don't know. I just like I love these like tiny objects like the Shrinky Dink you're just showing like that feel like there's so much like care put into them and the way that like they feel like legitimately so precious, you know? Like and precious is often like treated like a bad word in the art world, but like they feel like actually precious, you know?
Mhm.
What I mean?
I think I also like love just art that feels like you have to hold it. You know, like the
Yeah.
Shrinky Dink is not something that's easy to, I mean, I guess we could put it in a frame, but then it loses all of the quality that makes it an interesting object. Because you can't
Yeah.
sense the like, I guess the feeling on either side of the Shrinky Dink. So you really have to just kind of touch it and carry it around. And I do like a lot of the little objects that we have, like I move them around. They don't like live in a place. They live all over the place in our home because they'll just be like one place and then I'll be like, I feel like you should be over here. And we'll just like, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something quite nice about that scale of being quite small and tactile, and I think that's something that's often difficult with art because, from a public standpoint, like you're not supposed to touch art. But I like
Yeah.
touching art because I feel that there's a lot of really lovely things that are communicated through like the tactile quality of like a felted object or of a small sculpture. And I think that those things are important sometimes in art, not just to frame it and put it on a wall, but sometimes to engage with it and touch it and love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brings you
100%.
closer. But to change our scale perspective quite dramatically, I don't know if I'll be able to pull this up over my head. Nope. Nope, I can't.
Okay.
So now we're going complete opposite direction into something that is quite large in scale. In fact, I don't think we're getting this whole image in, but we're close. So this
Actually, we're very close together.
This is a painting, and I'm assuming that it's oil because I think that Zac mostly works in oil.
It is oil.
This is by a local artist, Zac Kenny, and it is called "You Can't Take the Sky from Me," which I love. And it lives at the top of our stairs. So every time like we go up to our office or our room, we are greeted by this beautiful painting. And I really love Zac's pieces. They're so like filled with energy and motion, and it's like organized chaos, which is really something I enjoy. And it's interesting like looking at it kind of sitting beside me and then looking at what it looks like on the screen are like two totally different pieces of art. Yeah, because from this space, like all of the like really bold colors that are on the surface are so pronounced and occupying my like vision that I'm not like able to appreciate the like soft, gentle colors. But when I look over here, it looks like it's more soft, gentle colors than the like brighter, more intense colors. So the composition is really interesting to like see there and then here. I realize you can't see me, but you can see my fingers pointing back and forth. And yeah, Zac mostly works like on this scale or larger. So we thought it would be fun to have something super tiny and then something much,
Nice.
much bigger.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And I don't really know exactly like Zac's influences. I know that like they shift depending on the project and the collection of works. But for me, it's more about like the action of putting on these like sort of small swashes of paint to create like a full composition that has a lot of movement that I really am drawn to.
Yeah, so what you're looking at is like all the marks are made with palette knives. So he's like individually mixing like colors and then applying it with a palette knife.
I might be able to bring it sort of.
Who knows? Let's see if we can get close enough to look at palette knife.
Okay.
Can we see
Here,
that?
I got this.
Are you sure, Kyle?
Hands-free. So like it is all these little strokes that make up his artwork. And it's like layered and layered and layered, and you can imagine that like in order to make sure that the colors stay really true to one another, he has to let it dry before he applies the next.
Oh yeah, it's totally coming through. So yeah, this is a piece that I just really love it, and it makes me feel really happy.
Yeah,
and I just really like it. So that is our second share. I'm going to put it back over here so that we don't crush it as we lean back in.
So painting, that's our second share. I don't know if we've ever really shown painting.
We haven't. We have a lot of like portraits of friends that we like got when we were in university, and I can't really gauge how weird it would be to be like, this is our friend from undergrad. This is what they thought they looked like then. They don't work like this at all anymore. But
yeah, I got a lot of conversations like that with myself too about art. That's like maybe only interesting because of my like specific personal history with it, you know. But yeah. So you guys suggested that like I choose one of my own works. So
yeah.
Last one is a little zine I made at the end of last summer. It is called Spell for Spotting Invisible Things. And it is about deciding not to mow my lawn and seeing what things grew up in the space there. Yeah, so some of the pages.
So as your lawn did not grow, you started documenting the things that popped up?
I think it did grow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it was kind of like about thinking like, oh, I should like make this wild again and like plant wild plants. And then I didn't out of laziness. And turns out there was lots of wild things growing there that were just being like cut down, you know, and so you didn't notice them until they like got a second to grow. So yeah, that was a zine I made last year that I was relatively happy with.
So is this like a pencil crayon? How is this done?
It is a pencil crayon drawing and then like printed off of my home printer. Yeah, and stitched together with like a little saddle stitch. Yeah, and I guess like I felt pretty good about this, and that I kind of felt like that's more the place I want to be making art from or about, is like about learning things, I think. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like, you sort of have this like spell theme that runs through a couple different pieces. Is there like what draws you to that? I'm like sort of curious.
Yeah, I started like labeling poems that way quite a few years ago. I guess to try and like I kind of like to think about like writing and art making as like a kind of witchcraft, and like that it's like it's magic, and it's about transformation of some kind. Yeah, so I think that was just like a structure that made sense to me.
I love that. And when you didn't mow the grass, I don't know how big your yard is, but did you like create a path through it so that you could like appreciate things that were coming up, or did you leave it like fully?
So we did mow some parts. The yard is actually pretty big. So yeah, we mowed some parts like around the house, and then like we planted a tree, so we mowed a path out to the tree so we could water it and stuff like that. But yeah,
The rest of it was just like a meadow,
just
basically.
a meadow, basically, yeah.
Can you read any little bits from that?
Yes, it's not that long. I could probably just read it if
Oh,
that's
that would be great if
Cool.
that's cool.
yeah. Okay. When spring came, we decided to let the lawn grow up. Sorry, the light is not great here. I thought we should plant wildflowers, but never got around to it. As the lawn grew longer, its occupants began to reveal themselves. Dozens, maybe hundreds of different species, all previously flattened into a neat green carpet, began to assert their rich identities. Every few weeks, something new comes into bloom and sings its existence. It says, "This is what I've been waiting for." I say, "I see you. I see you now." And that's it.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
lovely.
that's so lovely.
Thanks.
I really like that. I feel like when you're reading that, we sometimes don't mow our lawns, mostly because we have to borrow a lawnmower from my mom, and it's like feels like a hassle, even though every time I actually do it, it's like any task where like my brain is like, oh God, it's gonna ruin your whole day. It's gonna take
It's really
forever.
not that bad.
Something's gonna go wrong. Like, oh, just let your grass grow, or don't do the dishes, or whatever my brain decides is going to be an annoying task for me. And then I actually just go and get it, and it's like takes no time at all, and it's not a big deal. And I try to remind myself of that when I have to do it again. But I'm really good at forgetting that it's not that hard. And but like so sometimes it'll get like really kind of nuts in our yard. And there are things that come up that I'm like, what are you? Like, you're so pretty. Can I like collect your seeds? Or like, how have I
Yeah.
never noticed you before?
Yeah.
And we have bees on the property, so like they will sometimes like indicate areas that maybe go unnoticed, which I also really love. Like two of the trees in our property have beautiful flowers that for years I literally never
No,
noticed.
never appreciated it.
Yeah, and then once we got the bees, you would go like to certain parts of the yard and the trees would just be like
Buzzing? Literally buzzing.
literally buzzing, so loud. And then you would stand underneath and you could just see that all the bees like feeding in the canopy off of these flowers that, yeah, I just never paid any attention to. So I think
Yeah.
it's nice sometimes when you
Yeah.
give yourself a reason to like look a bit harder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. I think we have like as humans like certain ways of like categorizing the world that are not really accurate, and there's like so much more going on there than we
No
initially.
internet.
Oh,
Come on, buffer back.
Come back. You're
Buffer
back.
back.
okay, good.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way about just trying to like look and listen and pay attention more all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and then also like try to think about why that's not so easy to do all the time. Like if you're getting kind of lost in something, being like,
Yeah.
okay, I have not been even paying attention to the fact that I need to drink water. Something I love and hate about art making is that like there are those moments where you just sort of get swept up in it, which is such a beautiful and cool thing.
But then you forget to eat.
And then you're like, oh no.
Yeah. It's tough.
It's weird, that's for sure.
hmm
We don't have a third thing this week because we are trying to space things out.
Would you happen to have another thing you want to share with us?
Yes, if you give me 1 second,
Yeah.
I could find something.
We hope everybody else that's here is like having a good week and enjoying and appreciating things that are around them if they can. if you, yeah.
I was just having lovely thoughts of summertime. And then I looked out like through the window on our Instagram feed and I was like, oh yeah, it's winter outside.
Mm-hmm. It is. But it feels really sunny when it's winter. That's something I like about winter. You know, the sun like bounces off the pure whiteness of the snow and it feels like
A little blinding.
yeah.
This is a print I thought about showing. It's kind of big.
Okay.
It's woodcut.
Ooh.
It's very large.
Oh my gosh.
I need to frame it still. I've had it for many years. I traded someone a painting for it back when I painted in undergrad. And it's just like this amazing woodcut by an artist named Ali Louwagie, who I went to school with. And I think it might be like sort of like a blown up version of like an old illustration from a book, but that is not 100% verified information. So I don't know. I'll put the phone on the ground and maybe you can like see the whole thing.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It is huge.
Oh my gosh. It's like the size
person
of you.
sized.
It's almost as tall as me. Yeah.
Oh
It's
my
pretty good.
gosh. I love it. I love that the dress is just occupying so much space, giving this tiny cat like immense amount of power.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this just like big black shape in the middle.
Oh my goodness. And the cat is really great.
Yeah.
It feels like so grand. That's a big frame though.
Yes, it is. Yeah, when I traded a painting for it, she was like, "Oh, you can't trade a painting for a print. Like, this is one of a kind or something." I was like, "Oh no, this is really good."
I believe Ali says, "Ah, Laura, I'm glad that print is with you."
Oh my god.
Is this the same Ali that made the print?
It is.
Ali, your print is great. I really love
Beautiful.
it. It is beautiful. Is it? It seems like it's on a very lightweight paper.
Yeah, it's like a rice paper.
Yeah, woodcut.
It's such a sexy medium, and like I feel like in university I made a lot bigger work, and then after leaving university I went much smaller, and so I have a nostalgia for like these big things because I feel like in university everything was always big. You were never allowed to make something small, and like I think that's something really lovely about to do a woodcut that size takes hours, literally like not hours but days.
Yeah, it's a commitment.
Is such a commitment.
It's a commitment to time and it's a commitment to a material. Like, yeah, just like the devotion to the material, I think is also something to appreciate. And woodcut can be such a snotty material to work with depending on the kind of wood you purchase. When you're working that big, you're not working on end grain cherry, which is the nicest wood to carve into. You're working on like
spruce plywood.
Yeah, like a plywood of some sort, which can sometimes say, I actually want to chip off this whole giant area. And you're like, no, why?
Yeah.
I like the patterning, like the wallpaper that's also in behind that carries forward all the way to the base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that also, that was a really good print. I like that one a lot. And a good giant woodcut in a house is a really nice thing to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to just have it pinned up on my wall, but I feel like now I'm a grown-up, I'll like frame things. Yeah.
I like sometimes think about just painting my walls in magnet paint so then I can just put everything up with magnets.
That sounds great.
Because frames are just really so expensive.
They're so expensive. I like bought a mat cutter a couple years ago for a show, so now I just buy like secondhand frames and cut my own mats, which like makes it a lot cheaper. But even that costs money, It adds up.
It's a tough one when you like deal with print, like print versus painting. Like paintings cost lots of money. Prints tend to cost less money. And so like often when like I sell prints, like the print is actually cheaper than the cost to frame the print. And it's kind of like a sad thing because like prints, like I love the idea that they are multiples. That means there's lots of them and you can disseminate them to lots of different people. But then like framing them is really expensive.
Yeah.
And it's not really like feasible to keep frames on hand to frame things for every print that you make.
Yeah.
From a storage capacity alone is not an easy thing to do. So yeah, it does kind of create a barrier, that part of printmaking. That's why zines are so nice.
Yep. They all fit in a tiny little box. You're good.
Yeah. You put them on your bookshelf. I have all of my zines in one of those, like, they're from IKEA, and there's like cardboard. I think they're for magazines, to like put magazines or maybe file paper in. I'm not really sure.
Magazines seem appropriate.
But I just have like all my zine collections in those. So there's just like, they're just packed full and then on the bookshelf. It works really nicely. Yeah. Sweet. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Wonderful having you. Mm-hmm. It was nice to see your space. It feels so cozy and almost like one of your installations.
That's nice.
You know, like it's like just walking into a studio show of what you're working on, which I love.
Well, thanks so much.
And yeah, thank you everyone else who came and joined us for the afternoon. We are trying to remember who's going to be with us next week.
Can't remember.
I think next week we're actually having flat files on Saturday instead of Friday, because I think it's Jillian King, and she
could do a Saturday, but not a Friday.
Yeah, so we'll be switching our time from our usual time to a bit of a different one, but it's going to be good. Painter, so stepping outside of our paperworks land for a little minute. Yeah, so we'll let you go, and we'll see you again, and we'll post everything online, and you'll send me some photos of things. Good luck with the woodcut. I'm not sure how you're going to capture that, but and then we'll share everybody's work and their connections on our stories. And yeah, it was so nice to chat with you.
Yeah, you too. Good to see you guys.
Hi, Laura.
Bye.
Lovely seeing you.